This is Ben from the Hack the Planet podcast, on location at 36C3 in Leipzig, Germany, at the Chaos Computer Club's 36th Annual Congress. It's the morning of day 3. Everyone is running a little slow, but it's quiet enough to attempt to ask some questions of random passersby. Random passerby. Oh. Oh, it's the morning after Whiskey Leaks. That's probably an important detail.
Ask me questions, I guess?
All right. Well, I'm Ben with the Hack the Planet podcast. I already did an intro. Hack the Planet.
Okay.
It's not just a crime, it's a survival trait.
Survival trait?
Indeed. How's your Congress going?
This is the best one ever, and it's the second one.
It's your second one?
But I did go to camp. So
where'd you come in from?
Chicago. So I went home to New Jersey, but I'm living in Chicago currently.
Living in Chicago. So
we got the L train.
Right.
We got the venture cards.
How would you compare the American hacker scene to the Chicago hacker scene to whatever?
I don't know
this
much
is?
about the Chicago hacker scene.
Yeah.
But I do know that DEF CON sucks compared to CCC. And I know that Hope is Hackers on Planet Earth, you know?
Yep.
The conference. It is the closest thing I know of that can be like CCC, but it is not as good as CCC.
So for those of
but
our
it could be.
For those of our listeners that have been to DEF CON and have some concept of that, but have never been here, how would you describe the difference?
Okay, so this is gonna get me shot in the face with a shotgun.
Well, just don't tell me your name; it'll be fine.
Yeah, I know. So basically, like, at DEF CON, you've got this sort of vibe where people. It's not very like specific, but there's a vibe of like, I am going to hack you, and I'm cooler than you because I'm smarter than you, and it's a big competition, right? Okay, Congress, camp, CCC, Germany, whatever this is zero competition, and 100% like people want to help you be happy and do the coolest and most beneficial for society project. Like, this is all about 100% beneficial for society and 100% like enjoying yourself, whereas DEF CON is like, fuck you, I am, better than you. And okay, like, not everything is like that. Not every part of DEF CON or not every part of CCC is like that, but that is the direction.
The general feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is miles of distance in my mind. That is the most important thing about any social gathering, is the attitude of the people in that sort of stratum.
So let me ask you, like, what do you think corporate influence or lack of corporate influence has on sort of the difference between this and DEF CON? You want to take it?
Conference.
Yeah.
Fucking no.
Oh.
So I'm aware that there's a Black Hat and a DEF CON, right?
Yeah.
Black Hat happens before DEF CON. Black Hat is, from what I know, Black Hat is supposed to sort of like pull the commercialism out of DEF CON. Like, people who go to Black Hat are working at companies. They go to Black Hat for 4 weeks. They learn the things they get paid by their company to work on, and then another 4 days. They go to Black Hat for 4 days. They learn the shit for work, and then the next 4 days are DEF CON and they party, right? But they're still in this like corporate mindset where they're like trying to find ways to get around their peers and like outsmart them. My friend here is making the jack-off motion with both hands, which is a powerful signal in all of our community. With both hands. with both hands. And then you can add this part if necessary. She's also a female, so like
Yeah.
she doesn't even have those parts,
No.
and she knows how to illustrate.
It's literally just like it's corporate jack off.
Corporate fucking jack off.
That's the soundbite. All right. Where are we?
We're at the Chaos Communications Congress, which is this, it's Europe's biggest hacker convention. Sort of originally very German-centric, but now is basically encompasses pretty much all of Europe.
How's your event been going?
Pretty good. It starts very, very late and ends either very, 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 very late. So mornings are a bit of a write-off, and hangovers are a real hazard, but otherwise it's been pretty good. You know, and of course the best party was to be found was actually in a bunch of shipping containers in the parking lot, because it is Germany. It is Germany. I mean, it's like it's the Berlin way, and in fact, to really kind of like dig under the skin a bit, you have to go back to the origins of the Chaos Computer Club, which all come from West Germany and West Berlin during the Cold War. So to give you a clue of where the CCC comes from and why the best party is, and also why the best party is in a shipping container outside, is you have to go back to the table that the Articles of Incorporation of the Chaos Computer Club was signed around, because it's the same table that the Articles of Incorporation of the German Green Party was signed on. It's the same table that used to be in the middle of Commune Number 1 in Berlin, West Berlin. And the CCC comes from this Berlin radical left-wing political aesthetic, which kind of has colored the organization throughout its entire life. And that's why the best party is still in the shipping container, because it comes from this very do-it-yourself anarchist mentality that persists throughout the whole organization to this very, very day. And one of the reasons that it doesn't look anything like an American event is that the CCC, right from its very inception, was very political. It was an explicitly political organization, because of the Cold War, technology was seen as a means of liberation and ensuring that personal liberty would always be preserved. Bear in mind, at the same time that this is happening in the early 80s in Germany, you have this little bastion of West German freedom that's surrounded by a sea of crushing East German communism, which essentially is a giant prison camp, right? So you can kind of see where there's sort of like, on the same time you have digital anarchism, resentment against the post-war state, but also using technology to entrench the freedoms which everybody had lost during the Nazi era, and then in East Germany had lost subsequently, you know, under the DDR. And this kind of very much explains really why the CCC is the way that it is. You know, it's this, it still has an explicit political agenda. It's far more politicized and politically much more uniform than the US hacker scene. The US hacker scene is much more about technology, and then where there's a collision with politics and the state, it's around very, very narrow issues. Here, the CCC has that same sort of focus, but a much broader view of what constitutes politics, and also art as well, because here art and politics have always kind of gone together. You know, in the US, art is seen very much as a distinct thing. So you don't see, at DEF CON, for example, you don't see avant-garde art exhibits. Like here, there's an avant-garde art gallery right at the end of the hallway here. You know, so you see this, but it's because of that political focus. It's because art and politics and power and now technology are all seem to sort of like run together. And that explains really the focus, you know, the focus of the CCC, and also why it's far more powerful in Germany and continental Europe when it comes to lobbying for technology-related issues. It's far more powerful than the EFF and another US-based organisation, because that's a much broader base of support, and also its tendrils run deeply into the left-wing political scene here. You know, does that help? Was that what you were after?
That was perfect.
Okay, great.
Wow. That was a lot of new information for me, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't know all that.
Well, my friend,
Makes a lot of sense.
yeah, my friend Una actually has a chunk of that table.
Nice.
Because so after it got famous, people actually like chopped bits out of it. So it still exists, but it's missing little bits around the edge. So her dad, Una's father, was the first publisher of the CCC's magazine. So he was a member of Commune Number 1. So his name is actually on one of the articles, on both sets of articles of incorporation for the Green Party and the CCC.
Wow.
So Werner, wherever he is, his knees gave out years ago,
Yeah.
and you know, and he's in his 80s.
That happens.
That doesn't kind of get out that much.
There's a lot of walking here.
Yeah.
Although,
So-
I guess you could get a go-kart now.
So Werner hasn't been to one of these things since like the early noughties. But like Una's been my mate for fucking 20 odd years now. So
Did you see any interesting talks?
I did actually.
Or meet any interesting strangers? That's the other question I'm asking.
Well, yeah, I've met a bunch of those. So interesting talks wise, weirdly, the one that I actually found most interesting actually was the Fake Like Factory talk, and that's only because. So I mean, like a bit of background to explain why that's interesting rather than the other ones. So the thing is that I've been in the computer security field for like the best part of coming up for 24 years, right? And the problem is that whenever you now watch a technical talk, what you often find is that it's a variation of the theme that you've heard before. There's an awful lot of repetition. Things get new names, new fancy logo, new fancy website, but in fact, actually, we're really talking about the same classes of design problem that have existed, theoretically at least, ever since John von Neumann sat down and went, what should a computer look like? You know? However, when it comes to things like the social media and the way that social media is used to manipulate people and also and is used in the service of power, there is an obvious collision here between, on the one hand, the technical, on the other hand, the political, together in one explosive topic, because the battlefield now is no longer what happens inside your computer. The battlefield has moved to your head, the interior landscape of people's minds. And in fact, in my mind, at least, hacking and taking over the computing machinery was only ever a means to an end, and that end is in fact actually to manipulate what happens inside your brain. These guys have just skipped this whole boring technical business and moved straight to using the tools that Facebook provides and the mechanics that Facebook provides to actually directly wage that war in your brain without having to actually go through this irritating business of having to compromise some bits of software, pivot, you know, and then actually, you know, and then move on to the execution of the mission. So, you know, inside the Fake Like Factory shows just how easy that actually is, and also just how cheap it is. and also the way that we've created a very strange universe where what we've done now is we've created a universe where we have an entire economic ecosystem that consists of bots monetizing bots, talking to other bots, whilst all simultaneously fighting over how many brain cycles, whatever thing it is that they're pushing, actually occupies inside some poor person's brain who may not even be the direct target of that campaign. And there's monetization happening throughout all of this. So it's kind of strange. We've created this very strange, entirely artificial, entirely synthetic ecosystem, which bears no resemblance at all with reality anymore. And that's one of the world's largest businesses, you know. And then you look at the rest of social media, you know, Instagram and all the others and the like, and the ratios are kind of like the same, you know. So we've created this weird, very strange economic dreamland where a vast amount of money goes through, but it has almost no relationship at all with the real physical world anymore. And that's actually A, deeply disturbing, B, fascinating, C, utterly baffling, all in one go. And that's really what got those sorts of talks now get my attention much more than the technical ones, because the technical ones I can read the abstract and I've kind of got a good idea of what's going on. These other talks where people actually start to pick apart the ecosystems that we have created are, in my mind, much more fascinating, because this is something I don't know anything about. This is something new. And it represents this sort of like interesting nexus where essentially so much of what we've been fighting about technically for the last 30-something odd years is almost, it's not irrelevant, but it's much less compelling, and it puts those sorts of discussions into context, because instead of arguing about the technical, what we should be arguing is about information literacy and actually ensuring that people have the critical are educated to have the critical faculties required to actually navigate their way through this sea of machine-generated disinformation that they're swimming in. Because taking control of the underlying compute machinery is now much less potent than taking control of people's mental compute machinery. You know, so hopefully that's helpful.
What do you think that education would be like?
That's actually a really good question, and the really disturbing thing is that we don't actually know. In many respects, what it means is that everybody has to become a journalist. So we have to all get used to the idea of triangulating our sources. So instead of seeing one thing and saying, you know, like, Jens told me, so therefore it must be true, right? I can't do that anymore, because for all I know, Jens is in fact actually a Ukrainian bot paid for by some dude in Malta, who is in fact actually a front for somebody in China who wants me to go and stick a jade egg up my vagina, for example. You know, so we can't trust that anymore. Instead, what we actually now have to do is we have to take multiple sources. So it's not good enough to just say, well, Jens told me on Facebook that therefore I have to shove this, you know, like this goop egg up my fanny. Instead, now it's like I need a variety of different sources with attestation and good source credibility and good source history to so for example, you know, like if the New York Times and like the South China Morning Post and the World Health Organization and the US CDC and the Johns Hopkins University all tell me that vaccines work, the odds are pretty good that vaccines work, especially when I can go to my local graveyard and actually see the dates at which all the little gravestones stop. So I have this argument with a bunch of anti-vaxxers at home and some in the States. And what I actually made them do was like, okay guys, if you don't believe that vaccines work, what you need to do is you need to go to your local cemetery and look at the dates at which point the small gravestones with the little dates on them, with the very short dates on them, stop. And usually they coincide to within about 6 to 12 months of a national or local vaccination program coming in. And you can actually tell what people die of. And it's blisteringly effective because now, in fact, actually childhood gravestones are extraordinarily rare. Like, they're not offered as standard anymore. You have to ask. Because, back in the day, everyone, 50% of all children died. And that meant there was a booming market in these little grave markers. And that doesn't exist anymore. So what you have to do is you have to say, okay, well, multiple sources. Can I test some of this myself? Can I do the math myself? Can I look at this myself? But the problem with that, it's time consuming. And it's time consuming, it consumes mental energy, it requires a certain base degree of information literacy, a certain degree of base numeracy, and it requires an understanding of cognitive biases, none of which you're taught in school, and none of which your parents are going to teach you. Now, hopefully, if I ever have children, if you guys ever have children, we hopefully will be in a better position to ensure that our children from a very early age are taught to question things, but also then are given the cognitive tools necessary to actually navigate an environment where everything they see may be actually trying to systemically deceive them. That in of itself would also radically change what our society looks like. It breaks the model of things like Facebook and which rely on advertising, which rely on using your cognitive biases to actually steer you into buying something you don't need. But really, we have to start building that into curriculums. We have to build critical thinking into curriculums. And more importantly, we as potential future parents, uncles, aunts, have to be far more willing to get involved with the education of children from a very early age, to give them these tools right from the beginning. So by the time they are exposed to the online world, they already have some of the critical thinking tooling necessary to actually survive there. So I think that this idea that, you only have to look at YouTube and it's terrifying automated children's section, which is frankly nightmare fuel, to see how easily we could fail in this just by simply okay, I'm really busy, I need the kids to do something, here's an iPad, now fill your head with junk, before they ever have the tools necessary to cope with that environment. So this is kind of really where we're at right now, and obviously, in the US and the UK, our political processes have already been hijacked via these tools, and that's simply because, in the majority of voters, certainly of the boomer generation and Gen X, simply never had to do this work before, because we grew up in an environment where you trusted, the default mode was to trust what you were told. And the problem now is that, it's trivially easy via Facebook to produce things that look very superficially good, that sound right, but at the same time actually are very, very wrong and deliberately deceptive, whilst having all the production values that you would associate with a source of truth. So that's kind of the problem. Really, actually, this may be a battle that we as a generation might have lost, but it's up to us to put in place the seeds, if you like, of a far more information literate generation to come. Otherwise, essentially, the alternative is a world where essentially he who has the most compute power wins. If you're able to get to enough eyeballs, if you're able to manipulate people at scale well enough, essentially then it boils down to who has access to the most eyeballs and who has the most compute power available to narrow down and individualize the information feed that any given individual sees to be manipulated. And Facebook is winning that war quite well, and we're helping it, which I actually kind of loathe. I really, this isn't the world we were promised. You know, we weren't. You know, we were promised a dystopian cyberpunk hellhole, but you know, now we have mind control with like thumbs up and smileys and like buttons and the rest of it. But no cybernetic eye. I still can't climb walls. No flying cars. Yeah, where's my robot dog? I'm not getting any of this shit, man. It's like this is a bum ticket. But yeah, I mean that's why I find those talks fascinating.
In 2006, I gave another con to talk about the differences of the European and the American hacker scene, and most of the things I say in there in the description of it are pretty much true still today. But a reason for the differences in this, which is the differences in the European hacker scene and the American hacker scene, is very strongly something that I think has to do more with high school stuff. So in high school, you read certain books, and in the philosophical delay, you'll notice that hackerspaces outside of the German-speaking world very often in conferences and in the spaces itself try to stay neutral. And in the German thinking, which is dominated also after in the books that happened basically after the Holocaust, you had to deal with the question of the people that didn't say anything, the people they stayed neutral. How much do they have part of a guilt because there were people that enabled this? So the philosophy thinking that came after that is that in this specific case, if you stayed neutral, you actually made a statement, and that helped enabled the Nazis for doing so. And this raised then the question of like, if you stay neutral in this case, and this is also taking a statement, this is true for basically everything, because the German more philosophical thinking is there than whatever you do, you act political, you don't stay neutral. So like basically all of the decisions have a political impact. Like you're developing something that has the potential to whatever changes from the big things, like building bombs. Is that politically neutral? Military would say it's politically neutral because they're just kind of doing the thing, but doing that thing because that's like from the constitution their job. But is having a strong or weak army, or how much money you spend, is that politically neutral? No, like all of these decisions are political. If you give something like the NSA a stand on DEF CON where they can recruit, like it happened a long time ago, that is a political statement, even if you just say we're trying to kind of staying neutral and we're giving both sides kind of a place here. But one of the stories that basically Germans learned out of this whole World War II was that there are certain things where you can't stay neutral. Like by taking no position, you're taking a position. And for something like Nazis and fascism and all of that, that is definitely true. Where you draw the difference is a hard one, which brings me to the point of like, I think there is no such thing as acting but not acting politically, because whatever you do, you're not staying neutral. You're already by doing something, you're changing something. And I think that is a big difference between the hacker scenes, to come back to that. Because a lot of the hacker scenes outside of the German world think they want to stay neutral, and that's definitely true for everything outside of 2600 in the US. Not completely sure about Tour Camp, but they're not inviting a lot of political stuff. But that is the big difference. Also, if you go to the UK, all of the conferences in the UK try to stay neutral, whereas we as Germans say, oh, you can't be neutral, you're giving a hacker conference there. That is political, like just by itself. And that is kind of one of the big misunderstandings between the American and the European hacker scene, that is actually cultural differences between the political areas. Due to the point of, like, after the Holocaust, the Austrians and the Germans basically were kind of forced to think about the problem of, like, what's with those who just, like, shut up their face and moved back into private and that try to stay neutral. Like, by doing so, you're taking a position. And that's, I think, the major difference there.
So the community here is just vastly different than anything I've ever experienced in the US. I could literally walk up to any of these little meetups and these tables and met very friendly people that would like to show me things, teach me things, and talk about anything. And I felt like trying to do that and meet and network and at conferences like DEF CON and stuff was just very difficult, because if you walk up to a circle of people and you try to introduce yourselves, they almost respond with, yeah, we don't know you. And it's like, yeah, that's why I'm trying to introduce myself. But no, my experience at Congress this year has been basically eye-opening, and it's probably the best security conference experience I've had, and I'd love to come back.
Well, where are you in from?
I'm from Berlin, like Germany.
How's your Congress going?
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I'm here with my I don't know, like the husband of my sister and the two kids, and they're like 15 and 11. So like
Are they here?
Yeah,
Are they having a good time?
yeah. Like they learn to solder over there.
Really?
Like we did already 2 kids yesterday, and today they're building like a game Duino or something like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a fair number of kids here.
Yeah, that's I like it. That, and you see, like you know, because I think for me, like I don't have kids, but I think maybe would be boring for them, you know, like this technical stuff, but they actually really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, make a machine and then make it work.
So what other stuff have they been doing other than learning to solder?
Just running around and have a look, and we've been to. I mean, the talks are a bit too theoretical, but I want to. Today there's one like about like combustion rockets, like space travel combustions, and like Anton is really into like physics and spacecraft stuff, so like maybe it's interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Have fun.
You've been doing the 36C3 CTF. What's that like this year?
Oh yes, it's a great CTF again. Well-made challenges that are really on high level of experience, and I already solved one. I'm really proud of that. I hope I can make another solve another challenge. And
What's the one you got?
it's a ugly PHP challenge that. Yeah, it shows again what's possible if you really want to do it.
How did you win?
It was a standard PHP server with SQLite database, and you need to get remote code execution. And it's amazing what kind of features you have in these languages.
So what did you use to get remote code execution?
I think that's a point that will better read up in a write-up after the Congress, but I don't want to ruin the game for other players when they probably hear this.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So how's your Congress going?
Quite relaxed. I don't run through all the halls to see all the things. I think I will look at them afterwards because then I can have more of the atmosphere and less of the content.
It is a long walk to some of the talk tracks. Huh?
Yeah, and they are all online afterwards. So for some of them, like I only watch the Jeopardy because it's really the atmosphere is there, and a few talks also. But it's nice. I like. It's a kind of holidays.
All right. How's your con going?
It's going pretty great. I haven't been here for 5 years. This is the first time I come back to CCC. I think the venue is really nice. It's huge, and the high ceilings and open space make it really comfortable. The people are really friendly, the talks are interesting. Overall, I think CCC has dramatically improved since the last time I was here 5 years ago. And it's impressive how it's managed to become bigger without becoming worse, but becoming better, which is not a thing that's usually the case at conferences. And yeah, I think I'm having a wonderful time, and if things stay that way, I'll probably come back next year.
Did you see any interesting talks or meet any interesting strangers?
Yeah, met a bunch of cool people working on interesting things. Went to a bunch of talks centering around cryptography and security. But mostly, I think what really impressed me and was valuable to me is just the atmosphere. You feel like you're in this really beautiful place, and the energy around you motivates you to investigate other people's projects or work on your own. And that's, I think, the reason why I'm here. The talks are secondary to that. There was some cool talks by Will Scott and Moxie Marlinspike on messaging that I liked.
Great. I've definitely been to several cons, Canada, United States. They're good. Never been to CCC or Europe, and I must say I'm kind of blown away by how the organization is set up, the volunteers, the kind of camaraderie and friendliness of everyone. I don't know. It gets a warm feeling, basically, and of course all the content stuff. Hanging out with people. I've never seen such a, I don't know if there's all the villages, the hardware hacking villages, all these things. It's just, I come away from this being very motivated, basically, to start my own shit. So if someone's listening to this, I recommend CCC, basically.
The difference between DEF CON and CCC. So this is a community event, so that means it's a community making the decision, and it's community who's driving it, and you have a huge amount of volunteers here, and that's the difference in the whole character comparing to DEF CON, which is like not only a commercial event, but it's more like it's the difference between your friends and the crew.
Your Congress?
Quite nice. A lot of people, lots of stuff, lots of flights. Mandatory RGB things at Terra Assembly.
Did you see any good talks?
Yep. The surveillance on Assange was quite nice one. Actually, they fucked up the recording on the day 1, so they had to repeat it today, on day 4. The Snowden talk was quite depressive. Yeah, we fucked.
Meet any interesting strangers?
Yeah, standing in front of one right now.
Anyone else?
Yes, some guys from Saarbrücken, some guys from Köln. Finally got connected in some way to the hackerspace that's like near my doorstep.
But you hadn't met them before coming here?
Nope. I kind of knew about them, but it was like, oh, maybe next week I'll stop by, and these continued for like a year and a half.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how often that happens. I meet people from Seattle here all the time. So what is the hacker scene like where you came from compared to here?
It's kind of similar, I would say.
Yeah?
So in Moscow it was somewhat similar. There's also this big 0 Days conference in Moscow.
Yeah?
Yep. Same spirit.
Yeah?
Different language.
So do they organize like events in a similar way?
Yeah, it's also pretty much volunteer run as far as I remember.
Yeah?
Yeah, but still, yeah, they still would accept corporate money.
Yeah. I think, I think DEF CON has used a fair number of volunteers over the years as well, and they do accept sponsorship. Indeed. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our numerous podcast listeners?
Comic Sans is not real.
Comic Sans. One more.
Comic Sans is not real.